the FATfreq X HBB Deuce. Let's talk about it. Now, this is a double dynamic driver that I've been anticipating since around July 23rd when I pre-ordered, which puts me in the first 150 people to pre-order. You can see my pre-order case up here on the upper left. Now, full disclosure, I did send my unit back in for repair just as a normal customer would, and they quickly sent me out a new Deuce. And so thus I have a leather case and an additional cable with my new Deuce. And with saying that, I will have some extra accessories, and I will be showing them off here today for all to be able to see. I review a lot of IEMs on channel, and I can say with pretty certainty that this is one of my favorite shells. It's a really nice shell, a nice dip in the middle. It gives lots of airflow for me. I like the fact that you can put ear tips on this, and it's really easy to do so. It's light, it's small, it fits my ear canal well. I have absolutely no problem with the shell. I mean, the outside, I like kind of the gray metallic look to it. The only maybe fault to it is the recessed 2-pin cable connector. It is prone to break, and that was the problem that my unit had. This unit, on the contrary, has not had any problem, and I have cable swapped multiple times, but being extra careful due to possible issues. This 4.4 impedance adapter is really nice. It lets you kind of change the sound of some of your IEMs. Some of them change in a different way. We'll talk how it affects the Deuce in a bit. But this is a nice cable that it comes with stock. For me, it's very microphonic, but it's a nice cable. The chin slider stays in place. It has a nice Y split. It's nice and pretty and red. This one terminates in a 4.4, and overall it's a fine cable, but it's microphonic. But I mean, some of my favorite IEMs have microphonic cables, and that's just my personal take on it. The case isn't too exciting, but I like the build quality of these cases. I usually find myself using little plastic boxes, but it's, it's a cool case. No problems with it. I dig it. This is a shot of all the tips. You can also see all the stuff that came with the rebranded unit on the right. This is all the stuff that's included on the left, just so you can kind of get an idea. Now, how does this sound? Clean, full-bodied, great note weight. The HBB Deuce, it's kind of sad because it's had a lot of issues, which I'm not going to get into too much more than need be, but it's kind of sad that it's had those issues because it is a really good IEM and has a lot of great qualities. It's not going to be for everybody, and we're going to talk about that more in the graph, but I wanted to say, first of all, that I really like the Deuce. I think it does some things really well, and some things the Deuce does aren't so great, but they might be something that you like. Let's start by talking all about this in the graph section here. Now, let's look at the graph of this. You'll notice there's quite a bit of this upper mid style area. There's a lot, and I mean a lot of bass. So it is something to watch out for. It's almost like you're just walking, enjoying the music, then all of a sudden, bap! You get bapped, and you just, it's bad. So you have to be kind of careful for this, but I want to show and compare this with a few other things and a few other settings. Now, for those that are masochists that really want more bass, you can add the impedance adapter, and you get with another about 10 decibels, and it is, it's kind of fun. It'll make your IEMs a little bit harder to drive, meaning that when you throw on the impedance adapter, you're going to need to up the volume, probably 2 to 3 different levels, but it's gonna be fantastic if you want that level of bass. Now, a bass shelf that starts right around 200, I kind of like it maybe a little bit earlier, maybe 250, but right around 200 is good, but it can come across as a little bit tucked bass, and that's kind of a concern. Like, it's just a little bit of a tuck, like a little bit area there, a lot of energy there, but overall, like, it's just a really nice tonality, and it does a lot of things well. Let's get into a few things.
First one, I always like comparing a few from the brand, like the Scarlet Mini. The Scarlet Mini it has actually probably better mids, or like upper mids. Um, but the Scarlet Mini, oh man, having this bass shelf that starts at 400, it kind of mucks things up a little bit, just a tiny bit. And when this bass hits, it's a little bit too much. Like, I kind of would prefer a Scarlet Mini where maybe it would start like this bass shelf rise would start at 250 and then raise to about right there. And then maybe when the impedance adapter, you could get that higher level. But I think part of the problem with Scarlet Mini is it does start a little bit later, which kind of messes with the tonality a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, the Scarlet Mini is a great set, but it's not a neutral set. It's one of those sets that's like hyper for people that want crazy bass. The Deuce has crazy-ish bass, but it also has really great and flat mids and nice upper mids, so it does a lot of other things well as having, which in my opinion is like basically perfect and really nice air. And so you have a trade-off, and it does things well for what it is. Another one I compare this to is the Maestro Mini, and I didn't really like the Maestro Mini. I think, its bass shelf, you can tell it's a little bit earlier, which isn't bad, but its problem is that it just didn't sound very good to me. It also had this weird 4K peak. Like, hearing stuff in ear, I was just really fully unimpressed with it. It's also like a $600 set, and I'm not the only one that's heard the Mini and the Scarlet Mini and the Maestro Mini that said that the Deuce is better. And I think it's a better set. I think it's a really impressive set. And even for a $200 set to be able to compete with a $600 set, it's really something to be said. Now, a few other ones I want to compare this to is the Fat Frequency Black Up. This is a really solid set. These graphs trade blows in a lot of ways, but I mean, I think my preferred bass shelf would be kind of this a little bit more tame Black Up, and then the Grand Maestro. It's one of my highest ranking IEMs that I have. I really like it. It's one of my favorite sets, and I feel like they kind of captured this, but also kind of gave it that like a little bit more fun bass, and it's just it makes the Deuce a really fun set. It has like the mids feel clean, the upper air and detail feel sparkly, nothing sounds off or incoherent, music is all fantastic, and they do it all for a reasonable cost. But it also kind of goes into that level of, how is it different? How is it unique? How is it not like everything else? It has this giant Giga Chad level of bass that I really like, and I think that's just something to be had. Another one to compare it to, another one of my favorite sets is the Jupiter. Now, the Jupiter has way better air extension. You'll notice it has a little bit more subdued up mids, which I kind of dig. A little bit just less energy up in the upper treble, a little bit more coherent and clean bass. And I think that's, like, to me, I'm not going to lie, if I had to pick, like, hey, which one has better bass, the Jupiter or the Deuce? I'm going to go with the Jupiter, man. It's a better set, has EST drivers, but it's also 8 times the cost. Well, okay, basically, right? It's, $1,600 versus, $240, depending on how much you get them. But, essentially, 7 to 8 times the cost, and it's a little bit much more. And you can still get kind of a similar tonality. It's a little bit more popping in here and a little bit more popping in here. But again, it's carried by these really nice clean mids, and they did a great job with it for a $240 IEM. Now, another one I want to compare this to is the Diva Blue. I mean, it's a similar kind of a thing. I like the Diva Blue. I mean, the Diva Blue is one of those IEMs. It's a lot like the Crimson, and for me, they really suffer from that BA timbre. I like the level, I like the way they graph, and I like certain parts of the bass, but the thumpiness and like organic texture of it all just doesn't work for me. And like I kind of wanted to show you that as like, yeah, I think the Diva Blue is a really great tuned IEM. I would love an IEM tuned this way with ESTs and a bass shelf. I mean, if you could pull that off, or even a little bit less bass, man, that would be a sight to see. It's just, but it's something to note that this thing slaps. This thing is, it fights with IEMs that are a lot more expensive and does some great, fantastic things. Last one I want to share with. This is kind of one of my other favorite sets right now is the Dyna Quattro. And I do like the Dyna Quattro a little bit better in certain regards. The Dyna Quattro has kind of some odd upper air and like it just has some unnaturalness to it. But like the bass shelf in the Dyna Quattro I think is a little bit better. The Deuce is by no means bad, but it does come across a little bit fun rather than gradual. It's almost more aggressive and feisty bass rather than kind of a clean gradual rise. It's just like crack, like it's gonna pop you when you're not even expecting it. So while the Deuce is a fantastic set, it does have a few minor issues I wanted to say. Let's rank the Deuce up. That it's funny how like you think a bassy set and I would absolutely love it. Like the only part this got dinged on really is the bass. Like I think it has so many great qualities and it's such a fun set. The mids really carry this. If you're a mids lover, this thing really does well. Like I really appreciate this set for how clean the mids are. Like I thought it was going to be kind of a Scarlet Mini crazy bass shelf, but it's not. It's different. The rise starts at a different level, but it does go really high and it does have a little bit of a bass tuck. So for me, the bass isn't exactly what I want and is a little bit overly energetic, but it's fun when it hits and it has a nice tonality at the same time. So it's still good. It's just not exactly where I want it as far as a stance being. I mean, the drivers and quality of the Deuce are solid. I love dynamic drivers, and this has a cohesive, nice sound with nice twinkle, sparkle, air, and details. And I find it to be an impressive set that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. So it gets a really strong recommendation for me at a strong 8.7. And I think if we could have kind of just moderated the bass just a little bit, it would have been even better. FATfreq is really known for doing expensive collabs. And a lot of companies I know that have profit margins that are in different countries, like FATfreq, we look to them and they've done some cheaper IEMs and I think they've been a little bit of duds. But it's nice to see that they've done this collab with Chris and that it's done some really great things. I think this is a solid set. Is it perfect? No, but it's one of my favorite HBB collabs that I've listened to. I think really the only one that I've heard that I like better is the Jupiter. It's a solid set. It's fun. It has clean mids. You could use it for any type of music. It does have a little bit of a bass rise. I wish you could add on the adapter and then get crazy adapted bass and maybe the bass would be a little bit lower. But it's still a really fun set and it was still really impressive that it is different enough from his other collabs. This is a great set. And I know some people are upset about the process, and I know a lot of other people are talking about it, Chris himself, so I'm going to kind of let them take charge and do that instead. Maybe someday I'll talk about my experience with them, but overall it's been really positive. They sent out my unit pretty quickly, and I don't have any fault with them. I've enjoyed this set. It feels a niche in my collection of kind of a cheaper bassy set with an impedance adapter, and I like the tone, timbre, and tonality of this set. I think it's one of those sets that is going to have great lasting power, and if you're curious about buying this, I highly recommend this set. It's a lot of fun and it does a lot of things really well to the point where I can't think of anything else on the market that does this, especially that it does this at this price. So if you're willing to try what's either the most fun or scary amount of bass in the world, give it a go. I think you might like it. I really enjoyed my set. Thanks for watching.
You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go watch another IEM video. It's done. That's the entire video. What more do you want?